friends on the internet. Welcome to episode 2 of Sports is Fun. Dun, 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 dun. Sports is fun. Here we go. Welcome back. I'm glad to have you back. Thanks to everybody who's been listening. Listen to that play out for a second. Isn't that great intro music? Yeah, it is. So before we get to our special guest, which is coming up a little bit later, I wanted to talk about 5 things. 5 things. That's a segment we do every week here on the Sports is Fun podcast. And the 5 things we got to talk about today is number 1, the Avalanche. Yep, they're the Stanley Cup champs now. And I'm reading a lot of chatter about the Stanley Cup champs, about how they were patient. And I think that that's something my team, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and maybe you can disagree with me in the comments if you want, but I think the thing that the Leafs have never done, and there's other teams that fall victim to this too, by the way, a lot of Canadian teams, you need to be patient to win. And I think the Avalanche have proven that. They drafted McKinnon 9 years ago. And that was probably, in reality, the start of their new generation. And here they are. They're the champs now. So be patient. I think even the Boston Bruins, to a certain degree, have remained patient with Bergeron. They drafted him in 2003. And another great example of being patient would be Pittsburgh, in reality. Crosby, Malkin, Letang. I think that era of the Pittsburgh Penguins management has been extremely patient. Then there's been management changes, but bottom line, be patient, and that will lead to eventual success. Build around the core. And that's what the Toronto Maple Leafs are attempting to do, I believe. And I believe at a high level, that's what Kyle Dubas is thinking. That's number 1. Number 2, the other thing we got to talk about is Naz. Naz is a Stanley Cup champ now. And God bless him. I loved him in Toronto. And when the suspension happened the second time, I was on the trade Kadri train. And here's the thing. You know, he was traded for arguably pennies on the dollar, although Kerfoot's a decent, serviceable third-line center and winger, and he can kind of do it all. He's very well liked by his teammates, and God bless him, he's a lovely guy. But he's no Kadri. And I think that what ended up happening, and 2 things can be true, folks. 2 things can be true. Number 1, you can be a really good player who leaves and goes and becomes a good player. That's number 1. Number 2, we can still wish him success. And also the second thing is he needed to be traded to find that success. So would he have ever achieved this in Toronto? I don't know, 4.5 a year. Could we have used a guy like Kadri in the playoffs against Tampa? Absolutely. That being said, it didn't happen that way. And is it for the best? Looking back, hindsight's 20/20, my friends. You know, you look at any trade. Is it good? Is it bad? What is it? It doesn't matter. It's over. So you have to turn the page and move on and cheer for Naz. I'm very, very happy for him. I don't think he was chirping the Leafs management. I think he was chirping St. Louis and their fans. Probably a little bit of the negative media. And to be honest, there are Leafs fans that do not like Naz, and I'm not one of them. I'm a fan of his. The moment he was drafted, I became a fan. So there you go. Number 3. The third thing I want to talk about is the carousel that is always the coaches in the NHL. We got Bruce Cassidy going from Boston down to Vegas. We got Peter DeBoer going to the Dallas Stars. Terrible choice, by the way. He's not a good coach, in my opinion. Again, come at me in the comments. I don't care. And you got Barry Trotz choosing nothing over the Winnipeg Jets. He would rather do nothing than coach the Winnipeg Jets, and that is friggin' hilarious. Everybody laugh. Number 4, we've got the Hockey Hall of Fame. Is Alexander McGillney getting snubbed? I don't know. I think maybe he is. I think a Lady Byng winner and a Stanley Cup winner, multiple All-Star, 76 goals as a rookie. Probably the first real player to defect from Russia, although there were other players that defected around the same time. So, does he deserve to be in the Hall? I think so, objectively based on his stats. However, a lot of people, if you read the chatter online and on the boards and on Reddit or wherever, apparently he was a real asshole behind the scenes. And I kind of like characters, so I'm kind of cheering for him, but his story's interesting, and it'll be intriguing to see if he ever gets in. I think he may deserve to get in. He was sure electrifying when he played for Toronto, and I also liked him, if you can believe it, when he played for the Vancouver Canucks. The city I currently live in, and I guess you could call it my hometown team, but I'm not a huge Canucks fan in the past, although they are growing on me. They have some good pieces, some interesting pieces, and a lot of my really good friends who are going to be on the show, by the way, soon, are also huge Canucks fans. We'll talk to Canucks Nation in the next few weeks. Number 5. So many rumors about Toronto. The number one piece of news from Toronto today was Timothy Liljegren re-signing for 1.4 times 2. What a great signing. He is a fantastic defense, right side defense with upside. I think he is the future second line pairing for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I think it's a fantastic deal, and I'm glad he is now going to be on the team guaranteed for 2 years, and it's a controllable deal. He remains an RFA at the end of the contract. Wow, go Tim, love it. Yeah, absolutely love to see it. His micro stats are fantastic, and I think he's just going to get better, or I hope he does. Of course, in sheltered minutes playing with Mark Giordano, who wouldn't get better, right? Kyle Dubas has some other business to attend to, but today's news was as tidy as could be. Now, without much further ado, I want to introduce my good friend from the Leafs Late Night podcast. That's at Leafs Late Night on Twitter and Instagram. Roscoe, Steph, Beener, Southey, and Darty Brodeur. I'm going to talk to Darty Brodeur about the Toronto Maple Leafs, about his love of hockey, about all kinds of crazy stuff, and I want you to listen in. We start off talking about him and our shared interest in music. Thank you for listening, and here we go. Do you sing in bands, or what's your deal?
So I originally got my start in just being a young kid, really interested in acting and like being on stage, being in film. So from there, I really focused on getting myself into any like musical theater, like any community theater stuff. So that's where I got all my singing and acting background from. And like I said, I kind of didn't have a proper placement on how to learn all these skills, but I've kind of thrown myself into, I said, picking up guitar and doing performances on stage, and it's kind of the old me, because since COVID, I've been focusing on, adult work stuff, like actually, making some coin. Cause
I thought you were going to say adult film.
I've we're going to get there. Follow my OnlyFans for hot hockey /
Darty Brodeur.
But awesome. No, it's just like I said, in high school, like I said, I was really focused on musical theater, and I never really focused a lot on actually obtaining real skill, like, picking up a guitar and playing it. But so once COVID hit, I was like, you know what, like, I know I can sing, but it'd be really, really nice to be able to accompany myself, so I don't have to keep searching for someone to play piano, or, I can actually play along with myself. It was a real pain in the ass, trying to figure out. I went to high school. I was in the band. I played alto and tenor saxophone, but saxophone doesn't translate necessarily very well to, theater and performing arts and singing on stage, I guess, even with a band, right? Like honestly, in my head, the saxophone was always just like a big recorder, and that's why I played it, because it was so easy.
Yeah, although I mean, presidents have played it. That's awesome. I can't play a saxophone, but good for you. Good for you. Have you thought of, is there local theater in your area where you can audition and perform? Because that's really cool.
That was a huge thing for me. Like I'll show off a little a picture of me from hiding I said I don't dox myself, but anybody who knows me will know me, and that's a picture of me from Joseph and the headshot from Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. All right, I've done a lot of that was my main focus, and before I became this hockey Darty Brodeur / on the fly hockey analyst was, well, actually I'll tell you a story. So my first ever real audition out of high school, where again it was for community theater, so nothing crazy, but it was like a real audition for me where I didn't know anybody and there was no expectation for me to succeed, was I went to this audition for the part of Conrad Birdie in Bye Bye Birdie. And I will never forget this audition, because the audition day was the same day that the Leafs were playing the Bruins in Game 7 in 2013.
Oh,
so I walked into the audition and I was like, I was ready to fuck, you know what I mean? I'm like, because like I'm trying to play like an Elvis-like character, right? So I'm like, I got the groove, I got the hips, I got everything. I was in my best shape of my life because I was just out of high school, and I'm like, I'm going to go in this audition and I'm going to fucking kill it. And I was feeling great, because not only was I feeling great, but the Leafs were up, was it 4-1 at the time, right?
4-1.
So I'm like 4-1. So I'm like, man, like I'm going to go into this audition, it's 15 minutes. I'm going to do my darndest, and then I'm going to leave and I'm going to watch I'm going to cheer for the Leafs going to the second round.
What happened?
I killed the audition. I get out and someone's like looking on their phone. I'm like, hey, what's going on there? Maybe actually they weren't even looking at their phone, because it's 2013. They're probably like getting a text from somebody. That's how long ago it was. And it's like, hey, so you know the score on the Leafs? Like, yeah, they lost. Pardon? Yeah, it's over. They lost to Boston. Please explain. Can you explain to me how the fuck that happened? Because I walked in there no more than 15 minutes ago, and the Leafs were in, third period. They're up by 3 goals. Like this is like, growing up with, like, obviously now with the way hockey is, these are high scoring games. Like every night we have like a 6-4, 6-5, but at least from my era of growing up, it was most games. Like the reason I get my name Darty Brodeur is I watched a Leafs game again. The first and only Leafs game for the longest time I ever saw was with Marty Brodeur, and he shut them out. I think it was like 2-0. So like me growing up, most games didn't go more than 3 or 4 goals. Like the fact that the Leafs were up by 4 in my head is like, okay, this is a sealed deal. So in 3 minutes or 4 minutes or whatever it was, like that, like maybe it took me to the audition, and walking out and finding out the Leafs like shit the bed, I was like, wow, this team is going to kill me.
Yeah, I remember that game because a bunch of my friends asked me to watch. They wanted me to watch the game with them, and I'm like, I can't watch with other people. And they were winning. I remember thinking, they're winning, but they're not going to win this game. It's crazy to say that. But that game specifically, I remember thinking, yeah, we're winning right now, but we're not going to win. And it was like 10 minutes left. I don't know why I thought that. I just didn't think they were winning the game. Anyway, I watched that game. I'll never forget it. I was alone. I didn't even care. I was like, I don't care that they lost. I can't. They weren't ever winning to me. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but
I did believe a little bit. And like, again, like I wasn't a Leafs fan at the time, just because like I'd grown up, the first Leafs game I ever saw was against Marty Brodeur, and he just like, I was young and impressionable. And from that day I was like, I'm a Devils fan, like, because I love Marty Brodeur. I followed him everywhere he went. My mother, who didn't think that I like actually cared that much about hockey, because it was never like a big part of my life, because I didn't play hockey, but like I was always a secret, like Marty Brodeur lover for life. I remember finally, like I said, that same year is 2013. I remember or actually, no, it might've been 2012. Yeah, it was probably 2012. My mom surprised me as an adult. Like I just probably turned 17, 18 at the time. And she finally surprised me with a Marty Brodeur jersey that I cherish to this day, because she's like, I feel like because hockey's so expensive, like, growing up, like they didn't like even think about getting hockey stuff anyway. Like I had like hockey cards from like Tim Hortons, or I never went to like buy a pack of like upper deck or anything. I probably the most expensive hockey cards I probably got were those Timmy's or McDonald's cards and like OPG, right? Like like my I said, I don't think they took my love for hockey that seriously, but I just remember finally, I probably spoke about Marty Brodeur so much in like 2011, 2012 that I was like, okay, I'm finally getting this kid a fucking jersey. So even though it was like I was probably way too old to be getting a hockey jersey, like with the name on it, she got me the Brodeur jersey, and I was like, okay, my mom finally realizes that I actually care about this.
That's cool. Yeah, we lived in Manitoba when I was a kid, so I was a fan of Dale Hawerchuk as really young, like 6. I remember Dale Hawerchuk. I think I even had like a Jets hat. Same kind of thing as a youth. I really like Dale. So I always followed his career because I remember him because he was really good. That would have been like in his heyday in Winnipeg. But yeah, that's cool. And you know, it's funny, Brodeur, I think 2012 was the year they went to the finals, and they were talking about the new hire for Dallas, Peter DeBoer? Peter DeBoer? And
I believe so.
He went to the finals 3 times, and I was like, well, what? When did he go to the finals? And it was with the Devils. So 2012. That's interesting that you liked Brodeur. Because
I was just obsessed with Martin Brodeur. I remember the first hockey game I ever owned was NHL Hits 2002 with Scott Stevens on the cover.
Okay.
And I was said that entire team, like Gomez, Stevens, Niedermeyer, Patrick Eliash, like none of those guys could do wrong for me. I said those are the big names for me growing up, and a lot of those guys played for a long time. Like Eliash probably retired probably around the same time Brodeur did, right?
Yeah, they all played a long time, and they were like a team full of like second liners. There was, in my head, they never really had a number, like a star, really, and so I was never excited about the Devils, but I did in the 90s playing NHL 94. I always used the Devils because Peter Zezel would win every single faceoff, which I liked. Yeah, good old Devils. Wow.
I remember that same game, the Leafs, I think, had Mo Gilney on their team, and I always thought he was pretty sweet too. Again, I didn't watch too much regular season hockey. Most of my memories of watching CBC Hockey Night in Canada were of grapes.
Well, in the old days, and I mean 5 years ago even, you couldn't watch every game like you can now on that website everybody knows about on Twitter. You can stream every game live now, where you couldn't do that before. So part of me watching so much hockey is because of the technology, not just my love of the game, but it makes it easier when you can actually turn it on your computer and watch while you're cooking dinner. It's
the
awesome.
First time I ever listened to internet radio was to listen to the Devils make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, and that year too, I had no idea that they were going to go that far. It just didn't seem like they were going to be the team to make it that. Just like Montreal made it all the way to the finals the last year. It's sometimes there's sneaky teams that they just it
was
having a hot
right? In
it's LA. Yeah, I wonder if I think it's probably LA, the ring that Clifford got too.
It is. And what's crazy about the Devils? They were never going to win that series. I think they lost in 5.
Yeah. But sometimes having a hot tendy can get you that far, right? I feel like that was probably his last year of dominance. I remember the year he retired though, he did get a couple of shutouts, and if he had stayed in, he probably could have got, I think he's 693 or something he's at now. If he only needed a couple more games to get to 700, I think that was, or maybe it was 790. I can't remember. But Brodeur's got that. He had, by the time he retired, it's just like Gretzky, right? There's it'll be a long time before people start breaking his records.
A lot of people would say to you as a Brodeur fan that he's overrated, but I actually think he's, top 3 ever. Personally, that's me. I think Hasek is, I think he's the underrated one somehow. I think he should be number 1. Grant Fuhr should be in the top 5, and some of the old guy, in the 70s, those goalies, I guess they get to be there. But in my opinion, Hasek, Brodeur, and Patrick Waugh and Grant Fuhr are the greatest of all time. But now Vasilevsky, of course, which, by the way, to transition to actually something about the Leafs for our listeners, who do you think is going to be in net for the Leafs considering you just said you need a hot goalie to get there, is Campbell the guy or is it somebody else?
This is like, again, like, pardon my uneducated opinion, but I feel like knowing myself these days, like everybody wants to know my educated opinion so they can have someone to chirp, right?
I know you don't really have one. You kind of have one, but what's your heart say?
I love Jack Campbell, right? And I feel like this city needs someone that's lovable as a goaltender. They also, like, I feel like it's been a long time since we've had, or maybe never, I guess maybe Felix Potvin might have been the closest we've come to having a Brodeur level goaltender. Because even Ed Belfour, I feel like he was kind of like, when we got him, he was, most people were saying he was washed up, even though he had some great years. Like, it's just,
now you have to be careful with that because Brodeur's Belfour's numbers are the best. He's the best goalie the Leafs have had since whatever 1980, I guess, because there wasn't anybody good in the 80s. Yeah, so Belfour has the best records. Best numbers. It's between Cujo and him. It's very close. But Potvin, the thing with Potvin was he was developed. The team developed him, and had he not been injured, and also the thing about '94 is that he just couldn't get them. He couldn't get them there, so they traded him for Cujo because they lost to Cujo. So they thought, well, if we can get Cujo, that means we're going to win the cup. But they failed to develop defense in the late 90s, and that's Pat Quinn. But
so I didn't answer your question, but
you didn't answer my question.
You brought up a good point, though, is that which may come back to haunt us all for future Leafs reference, is that, like, we love to think that the grass is greener on the other side, and that's something that's always been the case. Actually, case in point. You may agree or disagree, but I feel like we're kind of feeling that way about Nazem Kadri right now. And I need to remind people that this city is not for everybody. All right. Just like not everybody can wear the pinstripes. Like, not everybody's meant to be a Yankee. Some players do not do well in this city. And Naz, like, people forget why we traded him. He was a liability to us twice in the playoffs, right? It's not because he's not a great player. It's not because because we have some sort of hatred for Nazem Kadri. It's because, like, sometimes this city gets to you, and it was so toxic for both of us, Naz and the Maple Leafs, that it wasn't, it wasn't going to happen. We were never going to have, if we kept him, some feel good story for Nazem Kadri, because it would every single Toronto Sun headline, if we had kept him, would have been, is he going to do it again? Is he going to, ruin the playoffs for us? Is he going to be a liability, right? Like, the best thing that could possibly happen to him was going to the Avalanche, because, like, I don't know if you know this, but if you wanted to look up hashtags for Colorado Avalanche, they don't even match 1/23 of the number of hashtags you get for any other, like the number of hashtags you can find for Colorado Avalanche almost are at the same as San Jose Sharks. All right. So as much as Avalanche seem like,
you're saying they don't have a fan base.
They have a fan base, but it's not their social media presence, I don't think, is nearly as great as, say, the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Well, like, the thing, you read my tweets, so you know my opinion on that. I mean, the Leafs have so many fans that there's hockey players in other cities who complain, or like it's like a badge of honor not having fans. Kadri was never going to win in Toronto. You're right. You're totally right with him. Because he would never become the player he is today without leaving Toronto. Some players come to Toronto and thrive, although there's not very many. Austin Matthews is the one who has done it. But you're totally right. I think you need a player that fits in Toronto, just like you need a player that fits the Yankees. That's a great example. Really, it's same with the Patriots, right? Mm-hmm. Like Tom Brady was what was he, a 7th round pick or whatever? But he's the kind of player that fits the Patriots and fits Belichick. I don't know a ton about the Patriots, so let's not talk about that. But I think
every city has its own Dallas, ideals, right? Has its own buy-in. Yeah, and they all change.
You have to have a certain type of player to fit in Toronto. And that's why Sundin worked in Toronto. That's why Gilmore worked in Toronto. That's why they always thought veterans would work in Toronto, because the guys who had been there, done that, don't read the papers kind of thing. That's why Matthews works in Toronto, because he loves the spotlight, right? So
case in point, like David Clarkson, like he, like, knowing from, like, when I heard about the Clarkson trade as a Devils fan at that time, I thought that was the best thing for Toronto, because the guy he had posted a 30 goal season. He was looking stellar out there. And then when he came to Toronto, it was, I think the first season he came back maybe 15 goals, not even, like maybe 7 or 8 goals. And that was it. His career was over. And he was, I think, around 30-ish at the time, and not too far off from how old Nas is now. Because I think Nas is 31, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, the problem with Clarkson is that he was the quote savior. And, looking back, the contract was pretty bad. I mean, $5 million or whatever, 5.5. But had they just run him out there and said, no, just keep going. Yeah, just keep going. Just keep going. Maybe it would have turned him around. There's a great article in The Athletic on I think it was Komisarek, maybe. It might have been Mike Komisarek or the other defenseman, Mike Van Ryn. There's 2 defensemen in that 07-08 era. And they traded for the guy or they signed him, and then he didn't, the results weren't there within 30 games. So they sat him or whatever they did, or they traded him the next year, or they waived him or whatever. And I'm like, well, no, the one thing that the Leafs have not tried is patience. And that's kind of the thing with Hyman, right? Hyman went and he's in Edmonton. He's doing great. So do the Leafs, to circle back to Campbell, do the Leafs want to do that again, where they lose Campbell for, $100,000 for 3 years? Like, he's going to get $4 or $5 million. That's what a starter gets. So what? Sign him. Let him play it out. He's going to be the guy. Maybe they have a guy who's proven, who can help develop the Walls and the Shalgrens and the Pexas of the world. We have goalies in the system. I think you're right. I think we signed Campbell, in my opinion, even if it's slightly too much.
Yeah, so to circle back, I know I've been distracting, and I'm not sure people want to hear about my Devils takes from the past, but the going back to Jack Campbell is like, he's someone who this city really likes. I just don't want the city to turn on him the way they turn on Freddie, because I don't think Freddie was that washed up either, even when he left. Like, yeah, I think maybe the injuries are getting to him, but he had a pretty sweet season.
Well, Freddie and Jack are similar in the sense that Jack wasn't good when he was injured. Like, wow, that shouldn't be so.
What a revelation!
Yeah, it shouldn't be like, exactly. It should be a revelation. But when he was injured, he didn't play as good, and then when he was healthy, he played better, and he was healthy in the playoffs. And in my opinion, Jack wasn't the reason we lost the series. The reason we lost the series was maybe some ticky-tacky stuff and a couple bounces and bad reffing here and there, and a couple posts, instead of a couple goals. It didn't win. We didn't win in the end, but it wasn't Jack. And that's why I think you sign him. Exactly.
My only other take from this is looking at the current finals that we see right now. We got 2 goaltenders, Kemper versus Vasilevsky. Vasilevsky, who I think is a no-brainer, is on paper the better goaltender than Kemper, and it's starting to look like what do you need to do to it's like packing a bag to go on vacation, right? Like do you need more pairs of socks and underwear, or do you need more shorts and t-shirts, right? Like, what do we really need to get us to the next level for the finals, right? Because we got to stop. We do need to get ourselves past the first round, but when you are preparing to go to the playoffs, because I highly doubt the Leafs will miss the playoffs next year. If they make it to the playoffs, they need to be prepared. They need to have that backpack full of the necessary items to get them all the way to the finals. And it looks like Tampa Bay has fallen short of the necessary items, because it looks like they ran out of gas, right?
They're just out of gas. They're just out of gas.
And it takes a lot out of you. Like, I'm not judging them in the sense that they're a shit team, they shouldn't have made it. No, they've played a lot of hockey over the past 4 years. So it makes a lot of sense why we're finally seeing them lose to a team that is.
Yeah. To add to what your point you're making is to lose Chernak and Point and the miles that are on Stamkos and the miles that are on Kucherov and Hedman. Hedman looks tired. I think they're done. I think they're probably done the series tonight. I don't know when the podcast will come out, but I think they're done tonight. And
that's the thing, is that mileage you're talking about right now. Look at the Avalanche. They don't have, unless I'm wrong, everybody's absolutely allowed to pull out the calculators and screw me on this one. But the mileage is not like these are new cars. These are fresh new vehicles on the road on Colorado Street. All right, because if you're comparing the age and the level of NHL experience on both sides of I feel like the guys in Tampa are definitely older and they're more worn out now from all these series. Whereas the guys in the Avalanche, like these are all guys just coming into, if not like in the heart of their prime now. So it's no doubt that they're going to excel in the finals right now because look, I said, these other cars on the road, those are, 1980s Mustangs, and we got brand new, 2020 models on the
electric.
Street, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
I think, you think you're right. And determining what it is that is going to get the Leafs past. I mean, we don't want to just win the first round. We want to get to the final. So what's it going to be, right? And I don't think it's Jack Campbell versus John Gibson or versus whoever. I think it's a number of factors and bounces and reffing and a lot of little factors that'll get us past the first round, which would have theoretically, would we have beaten the Rangers? I don't know, probably, right?
We love pushing the veteran thing for the Leafs, but I think now seeing how the Avalanche are doing, we cannot forget how important. This is why I was talking about like packing, the right number of socks and underwear. You can't forget about making sure that you have the youth and elasticity and I guess heart that is going to push you to the next level. Because I said, looking at Tampa right now, it is clear that they have run out of gas. If they push themselves again, those are the guys to do it. But just looking at the way things are now, down 3-1, it's very clear that the Avalanche have the upper hand because they're younger, because they haven't played nearly as much hard hockey over the past 4 years, and their guys will want it more because of that, right? Like if you're fucking tired and old,
and no key injuries too, right? Yeah, no, you're right. I thought when Naz coming back, I was like, it's interesting he scores the winner in overtime, but the one thing I'll say about Naz coming back is he's the dark horse. He wins the series, right? Then that's the thing with Toronto. Had he not been suspended against Boston, I do think we win the series. Same thing with Tavares. Tavares injured last year. I think we win the series because we just have that player. And Tavares was really, really good through the regular season last year. I think his injury was the real reason we lost in the end. And Price played out of his mind. Again, health with a goalie like Price means it's hard to beat. And that was Brodeur, right? Brodeur, when he was healthy, impossible to beat that guy. Shea Weber too. Impossible to beat that guy.
We're talking about Vasilevsky too. Like, and we bring up Brodeur. Like, people always complain about the size of Vasilevsky's pads. So I was going to say, like, it pays to be it pays to be a big guy too, right? Like Vasilevsky might be tall and skinny, but Brodeur's pads look the same because, hey, Sean Avery used to call him Fatso all the time. Like, Brodeur was not a skinny guy, but he moved like a skinny guy out there.
Yeah, it was Belfour too. I think all those guys are big, 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". What's Vasi? 6'5"? He's a monster.
Yeah.
What do you think we have our Vasilevsky or Shesterkin in those two Russian goalies playing in the VHL, MHL, and or KHL?
I just know about a little bit about Akhtiamov, and from everything I've seen, that guy's an absolute stud. That's why. So, bringing all of our points back is like, if we were to lose Jack Campbell for whatever reason, I think it's good to be aware that when I was talking about youth and elasticity, that I really liked what I saw from Eric Shalgren. I really liked what I saw from him because he definitely persevered under a lot of pressure. There was a lot of things thrown at him, and do not be aware that these young guys might surprise you this year. So if we do lose Jack Campbell and Dubas can't get some stellar signing, I still think we'll play really fucking good in front of, now that we know that, didn't they just fly Akhtiamov all the way to Toronto?
Yeah, he's going to be in the rookie camp, I think.
So I'm telling you right now, don't think for a second that it's not maybe in, Galaxy brain Dubas's head that these young goaltenders might be exactly what we need to. So I think you're right. I think see what you got in the youth, develop them properly, and then in 3 or 4 years,
run them out. Like what New York did. I think the quote New York model is exactly what's in Kyle's mind. I think he's thinking, we have a couple dark horse Russians that nobody knows about, and we're going to develop them just like the Rangers developed Shesterkin and Georgiev. Georgiev, by the way, remember when he was the Leaf killer? What a guy. I want to ask, he
was also the D'Angelo killer too.
Good. Kill that guy. Not really, not actually kill, just lose his career.
It's hyperbole, all right.
For this podcast, I want to ask you, who do we take at 25? Do we take Rory McGroarty?
Rory.
What's the guy's name? I love it. It's so cool.
Bodie McBoatface.
Yeah. Do we take that guy? Who do we take at 25? Have you looked into it? Do you know?
See, unfortunately, I have not focused on anything Leafs draft related, so I'm not going to offer my uneducated opinion. I'll ask you that question. Who do you think that we should be taking?
My pal Jake on Leafs updates, he's the guy who's really pushing, and I got to look up the kid's name here because it's hilarious. Rutger McGroarty. So he's
Rory McGroarty. Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, I know. Rory McGroarty. He's a really, really big dude who can shoot, but he can't skate very well, apparently. Like, he could skate. Obviously, all these players can skate, but he's going to go.
Yeah, I love it when people say they can't skate very well. Like, look, I can't skate very well. Right? If they made it this far.
Honestly, Nick Paul can't skate, but I would love to sign Nick Paul in the Leafs, but he's going to ask for 7, right? So, yeah. But yeah, this kid is going to go to the Sioux, so I think he might be our guy, but you never know. I don't know if he's a Dubas guy because is he a defenseman or a forward or forward? Yeah, power forward. He's kind of like Matt Nyes, kind of a Canadian version of Matt Nyes, but Matt Nyes I think can skate. This kid, I don't know. Maybe he's a project. Maybe they go with upside and size. You know,
with this cap situation where we can't just spend money like it's going out of style. Like, it's good to see though that we're this focused on developing like our young guys, right? Because we're going to need that. We're going to need those. We have too many horror stories of sending people away just for them to turn into Leaf killers, right? Like, we need to
totally agree. I think one of the biggest, and I won't get into this too much right now, but we'll talk about this another time maybe. But I think that the biggest mistake the Leafs made from sort of 95 to 2015 really is they didn't develop anybody. And the Sundin era, the only player they had that was on the team that they were developing was Caberlet and
Tomasz Caberlet
and Andropov, I guess, and Ponikarovsky, but those are depth players. They're not stars. And I think that you always keep your first round pick. And that's what the Red Wings always did. That's what the Devils always did. That's what Colorado always did. That's what LA does now. That's what, the elite teams do that. We have to do that.
Speaking of Caberlet, I remember finding an article written in the newspaper about Cujo really pushing for him. Like, apparently he was like, this guy's amazing. Like, you got to make sure we focus on keeping him on the team. I don't remember what newspaper it was from, but
they always wanted to trade him. They were always like, we can trade Caberlet for a washed up star like Wayne. Let's get Wayne Gretzky. He's 39, but he can play still. Let's trade Caberlet. Not Gretzky, by the way. That's not who it was. But yeah, they were always trying to trade him. They wanted to trade him. He was always like maligned because people in Toronto like the big bruising Scott Stevens type player and
Wade Belak.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. I love that guy. But still, like that's the guy we're always looking for, right? Like another, if we have a team full of Belaks, they would have.
Yeah, the city of Toronto loves fourth liners. No, this fourth liner can do it. No, he can't, dude. He can't. He's done. Like it's kind of similar in Vancouver because Vancouver overpaid guys like Jay Beagle. They had 4 or 5 of them. I'm out here, as you know, and some of the people they call them the bridge and tunnel crowd because all the suburbs are kept away from the main area of Vancouver from a bridge or a tunnel. But basically, like lunch pail guys are beloved by certain hockey fans. But you need upside talent, and the Avs prove it. Although Darren Helm, look at him, he's great. That's kind of what Darren Helm is. Who I want Wayne Simmons to be, right? I want Wayne to be the guy who can chip in goals. But I think Wayne
is he close to retirement now?
I think he's done. I love him so much, though. I love him so much.
We ask a lot of the people, like the veterans that we bring over here, like even like I think we learned some not good things about guys like say like Joe Thornton, but at the same time, like everybody really has, like when we bring them over, they do give their darndest to make a difference. It's just not everybody is going to be Jason Spezza.
No. And I mean, we made a mistake by not getting Corey Perry, who I hate, but we should have just
the worm.
We should have just got him. But anyway, Darty, thank you for coming on my podcast.
Well, I'm always very happy to come on and give you my uneducated opinion. And I hope that people can sit through the first quarter of that and be like, oh man, like I don't want to know about the Devils or Darty's acting.
Did you get Bye Bye Birdie? You didn't tell me if you got it or
I
not.
Did get the part of
you got it.
Birdie, all right?
You got it.
But I was so sad. That was my first real Leafs disappointment moment as an adult, all right? Well, and it has like not gotten better since then.
Lowest lows. It's weird how all of us, like in life, the greatest thing could have my daughter's born and the Leafs didn't make the play. The Leafs missed the play or whatever. Washington, I think we were out that year. And I'm like, the greatest moment of my life, but also like, we always remember the Leafs, but what's wrong with us? I'm glad that you're the same as me. We're all the same. We're all feeling the pain and screaming at TVs and yelling, but it's awesome to have you on here.
Every time I get out, they pull me right back in.
Well, thanks for coming on my podcast. Sports is fun. Sports is fun, right?
Sports is fun.
Sports is fun. Okay, we'll talk later, buddy.
Ciao.